amongst other members of the committee, including Dr. Oduoro Ngwen, Judy Sijenyi, and Dr. David Sisio, who is the Executive Director of WIPA. David Ndii, first of all, it's good to see you not in the cells. The IG has indicated that he might arrest persons, not only the people to be sworn in, persons who might be actively engaging in the swearing-in affair. What is your take on that?
Well, as you already know, that I was a victim of of a preemptive arrest, I think, yes. Because when I was actually abducted in Kilifi, in Kwale, yes, and driven overnight to Nairobi, in the end, when was sort of my charges or whatever I was being accused of, the senior officer was there, put in front of me a piece of fake news, and I do not believe that the Kenyan state, with all its intelligence, is unable to distinguish things which are genuine, said by myself, and things which are actually fake. So clearly that was a trumped-up excuse. It seems there was some information that I was in Kwale to do some activities associated with the NRM and the swearing in and all of that. So yes, but it's obviously outside of the law, as the ED of ODM has already said. And if the Jubilee administration decides to go extra legal, then there is absolutely nothing that law-abiding people can do. If your government goes wrong, it has gone wrong. It becomes the responsibility of citizens to see how they navigate themselves out of a situation where the state is captured by a rogue regime. And that is why we have convened the People's Assemblies to precisely deliberate on how to find our pathway back to a democratic government constituted on the basis of free, fair and credible elections. So there is a parallel. It's a question of what kind of extra legal, extrajudicial, extra-constitutional, whether, even if this one you're talking about unlawful confinement, but we already have a government which is in office on the basis of unlawful and illegitimate elections. So it will not be a surprise that if they decide to go one step further and now resort to the sort of authoritarian methods of the past, and they have stated, many senior people of Jubilee have stated that that is their intention.
Maybe before maybe get a reaction from Moitalelo Olekina, back to Koitalelo Olekina, yes, and just back to your arrest. There was a bit of a grey 8-9 hours between the time you were arrested and by the time you were produced at the CID headquarters, and you appeared to vanish. All the cameras were waiting at the entrance of the CID headquarters, and we just saw you in court. What happened in between these 8 hours?
I was not arrested. I was abducted. About 10 or so people, armed people, came to my hotel. They put me in a car. They drove into a police station, but I was not booked in that police station. I did not put. Once I was put in that car, I did not put my foot down, other than for short toilet breaks in the middle of the forest, of the road, from Mombasa, until the CID headquarters in Nairobi. That's where I was. It took from about 11 to about 8 o'clock in the morning. But I was not arrested. Up to now, other than sort of that trumped-up charge sheet, there is no record in the government of Kenya that I was under arrest. There is nowhere you can go and find a place written that I was arrested and for suspicion of the one offense or another.
Maybe to put it in simple terms, what was your experience from the time you were...
We drove up and down the road from Kwale to Mombasa twice. We drove up, we stopped in the middle. There were some consultations. It did not appear to me to be a planned and well-coordinated event, because there seemed to be people giving contradictory orders. So we drove up the road, stopped in the middle of the road. We went back. We drove up again, stopped about 2 or 3 times. We did not actually get started on the trip to Nairobi until about 11.
Was anybody speaking to you?
No, I was not speaking to them, so they couldn't speak to me because I wasn't speaking to them.
Well, perhaps why this question is not going away is that the public was very, very, very concerned, especially about your safety. You know, just the other day, Msando disappeared, and we all know what happened. And I remember seeing your mother at the lockouts before you were released. She was also very traumatized. So there was all this question of what are they doing to David Ndii? That is basically why this question is not going away.
My own sense is obviously that it's it's intimidation. Many people here are familiar with it. We were victims of this in the 80s. It is going back. I mean, the sense you got was one, there was no plan, because there was no crime. In fact, by the time I was through with what was supposed to be an interview, you could see that the officers were actually quite embarrassed, because they really had nothing. By the time I was being released, it was a matter of trying to get sort of rid of you and get the thing over with. So it was meant, I think what we're seeing is an attempt to intimidate, to go back to the use of force. I think it was a test case, particularly related to intimidating this committee, because the timing was very much related to the timing of this committee. And we don't think it's over. I think Jubilee administration, we were told by the Deputy Vice Chair, he said that on several occasions, that we are going to see a very different President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is going to be very, we will nyorosha people, as we said. So this is probably their way of saying that they are going to do that. But I think it's also a reflection of people who have run out of ideas, because what we are doing is politics. And politics is about ideas and debate and reason. We have made it very clear, everything we have done, we have made it very clear that we are within our rights, our constitutional rights of assembly, of dissent, of exercising our sovereignty as people. Everything we are doing, but they are unable to deal with that. And when you see somebody who can no longer talk to you and he throws a fist, it means they have run out of reason. They can only turn to fists. And the fists have never sorted out anything.
Well, I think Vincent Afande is requesting that you do something in Swahili. I'm not too sure about that.
Just a short one.
Okay. Very well.
The moment
there are laws and procedures.
Yes.
They were not followed. So if you ask, there should be an inquiry of this nature. But mine, I am here talking to you. There are people who have lost their loved ones. I think those are the ones we should be concerned about, because we should be concerned about the more concerned about the faceless, if I may use that word, victims of extrajudicial killings. They're ordinary families. The people who do not have people like the media and my colleagues here to speak up for them. So this is those are the people I think we should be concerned about, because obviously, at some point we know that these sort of regimes do get to a point where they eliminate their political opponents. But before they get there, they will have killed and maimed and incarcerated many ordinary people who are easier to intimidate.
Just that moment, the decision.
There's no decision.
Walk along with them,
there's no decision. People, if you have 10 people with guns. And they sort of have identified themselves as police officers, and they sort of shove you into a car. There's really no time for debating. This is not sort of crime TV. This is actually a goon squad.